Welcome to the Burgundy and Gold Knuckleheads podcast. And as always, sitting right over there is none other than my main man, Reggie. What's going on, Reggie?
What's happening, man? What's going on?
Hey, we're just here in Dallas. We're getting through the ice. Yeah, the ice storm of 2023.
I tell you, man, this is becoming a yearly occurrence where we have these ice storms. But this year, we're not knock on wood. But at this point, man, we're not without power.
Correct.
Everyone seems to still have power this time around, and but for those that live outside of the Dallas Metroplex, we don't get snow. We get sleet and we get ice. And
Yeah.
right now, it's all white. It looks pretty,
Right.
but boy, it is nothing to play with, man. Everything is slick and sliding around, and this stuff is nothing to play with. So those that like to make fun of us here in Texas, man, this is no joke. This the ice will probably always win out against your vehicle, man. So don't make fun of us.
Without a doubt. And for those up in, I mean, but even if it's snow, right, an inch to 2 inches of snow, and this whole city shuts down because that only happens once a year and normally stays on the ground for maybe 48 hours. So we don't have snow plows and anything.
Right.
You know, we've got some trucks that put some sand and salt on the bridges, but outside of that, it's every man for himself. And for a whole bunch of Texans that only get one opportunity per year to drive on ice and snow, you don't want to be out there with them because they
Nah.
have no idea what they're doing. But
Look, man, and I'm okay not having those opportunities. No, nobody
yeah,
likes. I don't like this stuff, man. And for those be like, oh, we like the snow, well, man, go back north. Okay, this is the South.
yeah, that's not my main man Reggie's
No, hell no.
repertoire, right? We for
If I,
for those that haven't heard previous podcasts, when I talk about going to the frozen tundra in
come on,
December for a game,
come on,
Reggie
man,
wants nothing to do with it.
come on, man.
The what was it? The
Don't
game
make me.
again? Yeah, the game with Buffalo just a couple weeks ago. It was a game that they were eliminated, and it was snowing. I was like, man, that'd be a fun game to be. I don't care about for either team at the time,
No,
but man, I would love to be there. And
hell no.
Reggie wants nothing to do with it.
For what?
So so
No.
so if somebody else wants to have that fun and you got an extra ticket, let, let, let your man Knucklehead Ken know about it, and I'm there with you, man. I will go to the game with you.
No. I wish I would sit out there and all that mess, man. That boy, no. Give me a dome.
A dome.
Give me a dome.
Give him a dome and a pillow to sit on, and
Hey,
he'll be fine, man.
hey, give me the dome, man.
Yeah,
I
you,
want to. I want
yeah,
to be able to
his,
walk in and take my jacket off.
yeah. Get him a little doily to sit on his armrest.
I don't even know what that is, man. What the hell is a doily?
You don't
What
know
is
what a
that?
doily is?
No, because
Oh
guess
man,
what? Because I don't do the cold.
You have to look it up.
Is it something for
Uh,
the cold weather?
no, it has nothing to do with cold weather. It has to do with
Oh.
being fancy. Um,
Look, man. Look.
you're little Mr. Fancy Pants.
Hey, if that means I'm not in the snow, I'll take it.
Yeah, I know.
Oh
Hey, as long as you're
man,
inside, I know you won't complain, right?
hell yeah, take me out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised you sit in a regular seat as big high society as you are. I figured it was nothing but a suite for you. I thought
Oh,
Reggie was nothing but sweets the way you
oh,
travel. We've covered about the
oh,
way you travel, man.
oh, you've
Mr.
tried.
Mr. First Class International Traveler, right there.
Well, you you own it tonight, aren't you? You just
Thank you,
you
thank you.
just
I'm
don't know.
sorry. I'm sorry for pulling back the curtain on the world of Reggie, but that's not what we're here to talk about, right? That's not what we're here to talk about.
I was prepared for the roasting of Reggie.
Yeah,
I was not
that's
prepared for
not
that tonight.
roasting. That's not roasting.
Hey,
Hey, live
hey,
it,
listen.
live it, brother, live it.
This segment is sponsored by the Washington Redskins.
Redskins.
This roasting segment is
Yeah,
sponsored by the
yeah.
Redskins. Come on, man.
but that's not what we're here to talk about, right?
No, it's not.
What we're having this quick podcast on is kind of forecasting and looking into the season of 2023. Unfortunately, the season of 2022 ended too soon for us,
Yes.
and as we speak, we are a week and a half away from the Super Bowl, and there's a lot of things that are going to be turning in the next few weeks with Washington, and over the next few months to get Washington prepared to make a playoff run, hopefully next year. This is the hopeful season. Um, with the dismissal of Scott Turner. So
Yes.
there's the big that's on the horizon. We'll talk about that. There's the outing. I guess by choice. Is it not? I don't know. But the outing of Dan Snyder will be selling the team. So there's that change. And between seasons, there's always player changes. Whether you're signing your own players, letting them go, you're cutting them for uh, salary cap reasons. You're pulling in free agents, and then you always have the draft to bring in the young buck, uh, hopeful up and coming. That's going to be difference changes for your team. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that's where we sit for this podcast.
Yeah, that's what it's about. But before we get into that, Ken, I got to tell you two things.
Yeah.
I don't know why we need 2 weeks between the AFC and NFC championship games and the Super Bowl. We don't need 2 weeks.
Uh,
I don't need 2 weeks.
I disagree, but go ahead.
I don't need 2 weeks for all ESPN and everybody sit around talking about this crap for 2 weeks. Don't need it.
Okay.
Not
Okay.
interested. Just play the damn game. The other thing is the NFL. I don't know why, but the NFL, it's the last game of the season. And the fact that we do get 2 weeks,
Right.
make the damn game on Saturday. Make the game on Saturday. It's Sunday. Not only is it on Sunday, but it's Sunday night. It's not Sunday day, but it's a Sunday night. And for the East Coast people, it's at night. But if you want to
Right.
make it at night, make it on Saturday because it's not like they don't have Saturday games during the playoffs, right?
Right.
So make the last game of the season. You get 2 weeks anyway. Plenty of time. If you're not healed up by Saturday before the Super Bowl, you probably going to play anyway. So
Right.
make the game on Saturday. Everyone is having, because the Super Bowl is an event at this point. Everybody has Super Bowl parties. We get together. Just make the damn game on Saturday, man. It's the last game of the season. If you want to have it at night, then who cares? Yeah, start at 9 o'clock at this point. Nobody cares.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got all day Sunday to recover from the Super Bowl party, man. Just make it Saturday.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents. I've
Yeah.
been saying
No,
it for years. Nobody want to listen.
some of what you have there, I like, and some of it I would tend to disagree with. Just for again, this is just my personal opinion, just like you had yours there. To me, every game except an occasional, from Washington's perspective, I want every game on Sunday. If you want to once a year, once every other year, give me a Monday night game. That's fine. I don't want a Sunday night game. I don't want a Saturday game. Give me the 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern time game for all 17 games, and I'm happy. I want the Super Bowl. I do like the 2 weeks. I know it's kind of hard to have that big gap, but even in this example, I mean, I want the best potential for both teams to be as healthy as possible. This year you got Kansas City going against Philly, and Kansas City QB Mahomes, the extra week will help him, right?
Well, for sure.
And even if I'm Philly, if like this year, I don't care which team wins. That's a lie. I never want Philly to win, but I want both teams to be at full speed and have all their best players there, and then the best team wins. So, but I also want it on Sunday. Again, I'm a Sunday guy, but I will say, I don't want it. It is too late. If they want to make it a little bit later, and instead of starting at 1 Eastern time, they start at 3 Eastern, I can deal with that.
So you didn't watch the football on Saturday? You didn't watch any of the playoff games on Saturday?
I don't like it because I got my routine, right?
Man,
I got a routine. I'm watching it.
But
Look, look,
but
look.
again, the Super Bowl is an event. It's not just a game. I understand regular season. I understand even the playoffs. But when you get to the Super Bowl, at this point, it's the event. And there's a reason why they have all the special people doing the God Bless America, who's doing the national anthem and the halftime show, because it's an event. So
Right.
make the damn thing on Saturday, man. Make it Saturday night and let's roll. Anyway.
Uh,
That's my 2 cents. Yeah, I give
I
this I
and I
give this
understand.
speech
I
every
understand.
year. I give this
Yeah.
speech every year when the Super Bowl come around.
Well, and I do know people, and maybe some of our listeners are one of those people, but I know people that every single year they they already, I can tell you, next year and this year they got the Monday after the Super Bowl off. They
I'm not
plan on it because they plan on
I'm not doing that.
having a party and partying it up, and that's what they do.
Yeah, we're not
Um,
doing that. I need my
no, no.
vacation.
Now, if Washington was in the Super Bowl, I might need to take off Monday.
Oh, it's
Uh,
long. It's the
but
only time I'm gonna take it off. It's the only time I'm gonna take it off.
but I mean, when it comes to Washington, I make exceptions for everything. If Washington was playing at 2 a.m., I'm setting my alarm for 1:45, and I'll be there.
Damn right.
I'll set it at 1:30, and I'll be at the sports bar if they're open.
Damn right.
But but anyway, like I said,
Anyway, so
look,
moving on. Moving on.
moving on. But we do have a lot of changes, and when your team doesn't make the playoff, you expect more changes, right? You're going to have more players and more coaches and more everything. But starting out this year, there hasn't been any a lot of talk on the ownership, so we're all waiting on that. I don't know that there's a whole lot to talk about at the moment, other than I can't wait for it to be done, and I have no idea who the person is going to be. But
Well, there was the internet
Snyder,
was stirred up
Snyder cannot be gone long enough.
about a week ago when some report came out that Snyder was only interested in selling the majority
Yeah,
as opposed to the entire portion of his stake. But listen, man, I'm at the point now. I'm not going to give the whole sell the team a whole lot of attention and legs. I mean, this is going to happen, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen, right?
right,
The players are going to play. Ron is still going to do his thing, and whether Dan sells the team or he continues to have a stake in the team, that's going to happen regardless of how we feel. So at this point, I'm not going to have a whole lot of reaction to it until the news come out, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
right,
So
right,
so everybody knows that Dan needs to go. People want him to go, but at the end of the day, Dan has the final say. So whatever he's going to do, he's going to do. So we'll deal with it, and I think we'll have an opinion and a comment on it whenever that happens. So
and really, I mean, most of the names, other than one or two, we have no idea. The average person has no idea who they are, and and even if I use the big name of Jeff Bezos, none of us have any idea if Jeff Bezos is going to be a good owner or not, right? We know he's rich, but the way the NFL is set up, he can't just go spending his billions
right,
on the team. You have a salary cap now. Yeah, he can get a better facility and a lot of those types of things that hopefully would lure some players, potentially lure some players in.
right.
But outside of that, he may be, he may make so many knucklehead decisions that we'll be wishing Snyder was back. I doubt that we would ever get to that point, but I'm just making a point that we don't know
Right.
the quality of
What kind of
ownership.
owner he would be? So
Right, right.
but anyway,
But along with that, right after the ownership, it comes down to we want to touch base on the coaching with Scott Turner being gone. The search is still underway um, for the offensive coordinator, and I've had a handful of people ask me, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? Um, why haven't they hired anybody? And my ultimate answer the last week and a half is, there's a chance that Ron's primary choice right now is still playing football as of this past weekend, right? There's 4 teams left. Now there's 2, but he may have been, not ready to make a decision until he talked to a couple of the offensive coordinators, quarterback coaches, running back coaches, whatever, that are on the current teams playing. And as you know, the time that it takes to get ready and the focus that it takes to get ready for playoff games, you're not going to have a long conversation with anybody at this point, if it's somebody in one of those positions. So,
Yeah, yeah. And for me, look, man, right now this OC search is has the same level of interest for me as the sell the team, if I'm being honest. Um, Many of these guys that they're looking at, because everyone knows the situation that we're in. I don't think any quality offensive coordinator, especially a guy that has lots of options, is not going to be interested because our job is not attractive. It's not about the players, not about the team. It's about the state of the team. And the
right,
state of the team is Ron is essentially a lame duck coach until that situation with the ownership gets settled. And either the new owner is going to come in and he's just going to clean house immediately and just rip the band-aid off, or at a minimum, he's going to give Ron 1 year. And after that 1 year, no one knows. So any guy that has any top-notch coordinator that has options, Washington may look attractive from a talent standpoint, but from a situation standpoint, it's not so attractive. So the guys that they're bringing in here are either retreads or it's guys that have never been coordinators. And that's essentially what happened with Scott Turner.
right,
If folks remember, Scott Turner was not a coordinator in Carolina. They fired Brady. I think it's Joe Brady or whatever the guy name that came from LSU. They fired him, and then they elevated Scott Turner to be the play caller for like the last few games of the season. And then Ron goes to Washington, and Ron says, "Hey, I'll make you a full-time coordinator."
right,
So a lot of these guys are looking at they're coming under some good coaches, head coaches, and these head coaches did their own play calling, a la Sean McVay, Andy Reid, and some of these guys. So they have an idea of how to call plays, but many of these guys have never called plays.
right,
So I say all of that to say I don't know a whole lot about these guys, except that they're guys looking for an opportunity, and they may turn out to be the next great thing. But because I don't know a whole lot about them, I don't know necessarily what they're going to do with the talent we have because there's no track record, there's no history of what these guys can do. I'm just kind of like, I'm just going to have to trust that Ron's going to hire the right guy that's going to come in and maximize the talent. Thomas Brown, I got the list here. Thomas Brown is the assistant head coach and a tight ends coach for the Rams. Studsville's, he's the Miami associate head coach and the running back coach. Again, I haven't called the play caller yet. Charles London out of Atlanta. He's the quarterback coach. Followed
right.
by Ken Zampini. Guess what? He's our quarterback coach. And then you got Pat Shermer.
Zampese has been an offensive coordinator before, hasn't he? I believe. I could be
Okay.
mistaken, but I think he has been. But go
Well,
ahead.
the fact that he's our quarterback coach is bad. I
No,
mean,
yeah, no, I
right?
understand.
If you've been a coordinator, you at least want to be another coordinator, right?
Right, right,
Well,
right,
he's our quarterbacks coach. Pat Shermer, enough said, right? He's
right,
been a coordinator before. He's been a head coach before. But the
right,
guy's currently unemployed. And then that brings us to Anthony Lynn, whom supposedly they want to interview. They have not yet, to my knowledge, but they want to interview Anthony Lynn. He's assistant head coach, has been a head coach, and he's a running back coach. And last but not least, Eric Bieniemy, who's the OC. And for those that are listening just audio only, I'm doing air quotes. He's the OC in Kansas City. And it's unfortunate that Eric Bieniemy, when they do bad, it's his play calling. When they do good, it's because Andy Reid is calling the plays. So no one fully
and he's got
knows.
Mahomes.
Yeah, and he's got Mahomes, so of course he should look good. But
Right,
no one fully knows exactly what his role is
right,
in Kansas City. But supposedly that's been one of the reasons why he hasn't gotten a true look to be a head coach or OC, because they want to give Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes the reason for all of his success. And
right.
listen, every head coach, every coordinator needs good players. Okay, everyone needs good players. So again, I just ran through that list there, and a lot of these guys first timers, man. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't get an opportunity, but I can't get excited about them because I don't know what the hell they're going to do for
Right.
us.
Right.
For
Yeah,
us.
yeah, yeah. I mean, to your point, that was kind of the criticism year one that you and I had like halfway through when Scott Turner was here was we could clearly see that it was on the job training. He was
Yeah.
learning as offensive coordinator, and at some point everybody has to learn on the job, right? The first time you your uh get hired on that position, you've got to take over that role. But you could just see mistakes, and a
Yeah.
lot of the mistakes that he was making, and game playing, game planning, and managing from a coordinator's perspective didn't really get better in the 3 years. And so it was time for him to go.
Scott Turner clearly looked like if you watched football, especially our team, you could clearly see Scott Turner was learning on the job. He
Yes,
he would get out coached
100%.
many games. You could tell he was getting out coached.
Yes. Yeah, and even in year three, and that's what I started to say, especially the back half of the year, was he never was out coaching anybody. He would have a play here to a play here or there that would work, and I'm not going to say like looks like a trick play, but you're like, oh man, that's a good play. Well, you watch the teams that are in the playoffs, and they would have entire games like that where they were just in rolling, and the defense was on their heels trying to figure out what is going on, what's the next play, and Washington was never like that.
Right.
Um, but anyway, we do have the offensive quarter, and then talking about Ron Rivera, you mentioned about him being lame duck. I mean, if he wins this coming year, he's not a lame duck. He's a lame duck because he hasn't had success. He's been a 500 coach, and that's not going to cut it in the NFL for very long.
No.
And I think he's put a team around, but there's some glaring holes on the team, and obviously we didn't have a good offensive coordinator, didn't have a good a quarterback that can overcome uh the some of the play and some of the challenges. And our offensive line was beat up, banged up, and Ron made some gambling choices on the offensive line this year that just didn't work out. But so with that being said, Ron's going to have a lot of be taking a hard look at the players on this team this year. The salary cap. I mean, everybody's kind of assuming that Carson Wentz is going to be gone, and if they cut him, that'll leave us about $32 million on the salary cap going into next year. That's not high. That's not low. That's kind of right there where you are. So it's not a ton, depending on what moves you're going to make, right? Um, and he's talking about going with Sam Howell. If you're going with Sam Howell and you're only paying Sam Howell money at quarterback, then you got some money to spend and play with. Even if they bring back Heineke at 3 to 5 million, let's just say, that still gives you some money to come back. Um,
Wait. You think Taylor's gonna get paid $3 million next year?
what was he making this past year? Wasn't he making
I don't know, maybe
roughly
a
3 million?
Nah, maybe 1 million.
I thought he was. I thought he. I could be wrong. I thought he was making $2.5 to $3 million.
Oh,
I
Taylor's
could,
getting ready to get about 10 mil. What you talking about?
what's that?
He's about to get about 10 million a year, man.
I got lunch that says he won't, but you know,
He's gonna be. Let me just say this: he's gonna be plus $5 million a year easily.
I don't know about easily.
Easily,
We'll wait and see. We'll wait and see on this one,
easily.
Reggie. I
He
don't. You think that he's going to be invited or signed to a team to be at least compete for a starting quarterback job? I don't necessarily see that. I see him being signed maybe by a very good team to be a very good backup. And I think even from Washington's perspective, I mean, we don't know how Sam Howell's going to do, right? They may think he's going to do well, but you better have a decent backup behind Sam Howell. Are you going to have another rookie that you're going to pull in the fourth round? Are you going to sign you know a true journeyman 34-year-old backup quarterback? You're going to bring Colt McCoy back at quarterback. I mean, the options aren't numerous out there. There's going to be a big question on that, and I'm not convinced that we're going to go into the season with Sam Howell as I'm sorry, go into training camp with Sam Howell as being our penciled in, not in ink, but penciled in as our starting number one quarterback. But
Okay,
time will tell.
let me tell you something.
Go ahead, tell me, man.
Taylor Heineke will not be back in Washington.
I'm not arguing with you on that.
He's not coming back. He's gone. Okay, I know that's your guy. So go ahead and say goodbye. Just go ahead and say goodbye to him. Right?
I can't do it. I can't do it, Reggie. I can't do it.
He's not coming back. Sorry. And then Sam Howell, barring injury, this is Sam Howell's team. They're going to bring in some low price vet in the event that something happened to Sam Howell and they want to be able to steady the ship, a la what Taylor Heineke has done the past 2 years. But this is Sam Howell's team. They're gonna roll the dice with Sam Howell, and they're gonna bring in a low price vet, and that vet will not be Taylor Heineke. I'm just telling you. Your boy said it right here, man.
And I'm not saying. Well, I'm not sitting here saying that Heineke will be back, right?
A lot of people think he's coming back. A lot of people think he's coming back. It's just as simple. Resign Taylor Heineke.
Well, I think what it comes down to is two things. I think there's one of the changes that we already talked about. I think if it was up to Ron Rivera himself, he would strongly consider bringing Heineke back. Of having the conversation. I don't know what the dollar amounts are going to be, but he would be open to the conversation. But what people don't think about is you're going to have a new offensive coordinator, right? And so the new offensive coordinator and the way they play, the way they structure, Heineke may not be the quarterback that suits him. We talked about last year how the differences between Wentz and Heineke. They both had glaring problems,
right.
But because of the strengths and weaknesses of the Washington team, Heineke fit better. And you don't know where we're going to be set up and how the offense is going to be run next year. It could be a totally new offense that comes in. We're not going to be flinging it around from sideline to sideline, from end zone to end zone, but we may have a more wide open offense. And it doesn't take much to get more wide open than what we were, but we could be more wide open, and that suits a different quarterback style that the new offensive coordinator already has in mind of somebody that's going to be available along with Howell.
And let me go on the record here. Put this down. I am not interested.
Let me just go for the record. Is this list is getting long today? But go ahead.
That's right.
Go ahead.
Call me Reggie Damas, man. That's what I'm doing right here. Listen, I am not interested in trading away our players and draft capital for guys like Tom Brady and I understand he's a free agent, so don't come at me. But Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, I'm not interested in doing that, right? You're going to end up trading away the future in the farm to get said quarterback. I'm not interested in doing that. Lamar Jackson, listen, if he wants to work his way out of Baltimore and be able to keep his house and just have a longer commute to work and come up to Landover, I'm cool with it. But I'm not interested in trading away all of our picks and draft capital to Baltimore for Lamar Jackson. Aaron Rodgers, listen, I'm tired of I don't even want Aaron Rodgers linked to us at all, just because I'm not interested. So either draft a guy or roll with the guy you got until next year. Because if we suck, then we're in a spot to get apparently next year's QB class is where it's supposed to be at. So roll with Sam Howell, and if he's not the guy, we'll get a top 10 or less pick next year and you roll with it. I am
Uh,
not absolutely not interested in trading away the future for one of these guys. I'm sorry.
yeah.
That's how I
Man,
feel.
you put a lot on me on that list for me to write down, so it's hard for me to address each of them because I was taking notes and scribbling so fast there. Um, Overall, I agree. Other than the fact of I don't know what it's going to cost for some of those players. I know that I'm not saying that the I would anticipate. Oh, you're going to get a second and a third round pick. I don't think that. But I would always have a conversation about it. I know you would get held up, at gunpoint for any of those players, and so my initial
Bro.
reaction is no. And on top of the draft picks, one of the things you didn't cover is we're only talking. I know um, for Lamar Jackson and Rodgers, they're both asking 40 plus, more like 50, right? And we only have 32 to play with. So where are you going to get this money? I know you can restructure and you can do some stuff, but as soon as you get one of those guys, you're not getting anything else. If anything, you're getting
You got
either,
to, you got to
the
cut
same,
players.
I'm going to say you're getting the same or weaker at other positions to have a player that is making 40 plus $1 million. So
That's why I'm not interested.
right, but I'm bringing that up not for you, but for the fans that when they think about these players, there are consequences when you talk about big name quarterbacks. Now, would I like to have a quarterback that is worth 40 plus $1 million on my team? Absolutely, but I don't want a Dak Prescott making 40 plus $1 million on my team because now he's a handicap both skill wise. He You can argue whether he should be there or not, but salary cap wise, man, he's a player like that will kill you.
Yes.
And there's another point, but I must have lost him in my mind talking about quarterback. Oh, I know what he said. You said next year there's quarterbacks. We're always either last year or next year, right? Washington never falls right, and Washington is not going to have a better pick next year. Washington will finish. I haven't looked at our schedule. I don't know what players we're moving. Washington will finish about 500.
I can tell
Maybe
you.
maybe a game or two below, maybe a game over. But I haven't even looked at anything. There's a lot of things, but we are a 500 team until we get a dynamic quarterback or a dynamic offensive coordinator, and you and I don't see either one of those happening.
Well, we
I'm
don't know.
apprehensive
We
that
don't
we're going to
know.
be. You're right. You're
We don't
right.
know. Hey, Ron
Um,
could make the right hire, offensive coordinator. And listen, I saw some stuff that showed that prior to last year, when Sam Howell was caught everyone's attention, and he was a projected first round pick, and I saw all the write ups on this kid, and either those scouts are way wrong, or we have a steal from the draft because we got this guy in the 5th round. One of those two things is going to get proven because this kid went from a top number 1 overall pick
no, he was never
projection.
number one overall. He was
Yes, he
going to be a
was.
first round pick.
Nope, 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 nope. He was projected to be he one of the top picks, first quarterback, even I think number 1 overall is what I saw. I'm not saying that he would have been, but these are
Right.
some of the write ups about this kid.
That he had potential to end up being one of the top quarterbacks. Yes,
That's fine.
but
I'm just telling you, the guy goes from a top 10 pick to he stays 1 year and he falls to the 5th round. So either those scouts didn't know what the hell they were talking about, or this kid we got to steal in the draft.
well, you wait for the quarterback. I mean, you could say the same thing about quarterbacks that will be coming out next year. There's probably 3 or 4 that right now are for the class of 2024 that people are saying, hey man, these are probably the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks. Well,
Okay.
at the end of next season, at least 1 or 2 of them won't be there, and a couple other
Listen,
quarterbacks will move up.
look, man.
Um,
If nothing else, If nothing else, recent history has shown us no one knows. Because let me tell you, coaching plays a role. Coaching plays a huge role.
Sure.
But Brock Purdy is not the last pick in the draft if people really know what the hell they're talking about. Recent history. We can stop
But you
using
can
the
say
Tom.
that for Shanahan and the 49ers also, because if they knew that he was going to be as good as what he was, he wouldn't have been
Exactly.
the last pick.
Exactly. So my point being here is we can stop using the Tom Brady 6th-round draft pick as an example because recent history has shown us if people really knew, then Brock Purdy doesn't last to the last pick of the draft, and that includes the San Francisco 49ers.
Right.
So saying my point being in that, Ken, is I'm agreeing with you. What they're
Yeah.
saying that the top quarterback class is going to be next year, hell, they don't know. The fact that Sam Howell was supposed to be the 1st-round pick, and then he lasted to the 5th round a year later, goes to show you they don't know. But coaching
Well, I
does
mean,
matter.
but
Coaching does matter.
coach matters, and the players, especially in college, unless you're at one of the powerhouse, you can name off, 5 to 7 powerhouse schools that kind of reload every single year. So if you're a quarterback that's coming back at I'll just say in Alabama, Ohio State, um, if you're coming back for your senior year or the next year, you're going to have plenty of talent around you. At smaller schools or mid-level schools, the talent can change dramatically from one year to the other and hurt you as a quarterback if you don't have good receivers or your offensive line or whatever. It can have a bigger swing, is what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
but we're talking about all these different players, and we don't know what we're going to do. Washington has the opportunity to look at their own players first, right? They're looking at to evaluate some names that they have under contract. I'm sorry, that are due for a new contract. And for Washington, there's no bigger name than Deron Payne. Right out of Alabama. Speaking of Alabama, the number 1 pick for Washington, or the 1st-round pick for Washington several years ago, and Washington chose not to try to re-sign him this past year. Everybody assumed that Washington was just going to have to let him walk, but man, he played so well this year that it's making everybody change their mind. The way he played and the way that the defensive line with Allen looked like not only a talent wise, but a chemistry that they had. And sometimes chemistry isn't easy to replicate, but Washington has a big decision on whether they're going to watch him walk away or try to resign him.
Or trade him. But that is certainly one of the things that has to happen in order to improve next year. Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen's play this past season is exactly what I got to imagine most fans envisioned when we took those guys in consecutive years in the draft.
Right.
2 teammates at a red blood program like Alabama,
Blue blood, yeah.
blue blood program like Alabama, and they obviously played well in college, had a dominant defense, and then they come into the NFL and they did what we had envisioned them to do.
Right.
But it begs the question: the organization has a tough decision to make when it comes to Deron Payne, because Deron Payne is probably seeking a contract that is going to pay him $19 to $20 million average per year.
Right.
And does Washington do that? Does Washington do that when you've just paid John Allen? Chase Young is going to be coming up, I think, next year. They also, Cam Curl is eligible for an extension. They don't have to give it to him, but he's certainly eligible for an extension this season. And Cole Holcomb is a free agent. But more importantly, do you give Deron Payne the money?
You didn't mention Montez Sweat. Is Montez Sweat is next?
Montez, he'll probably get the 5th-year option picked up kind of deal.
Right. But you still have these contracts that you need to project
absolutely
on all these players. Yes,
absolutely.
And to your point, you can't keep everybody.
You can't keep everybody. And so, do they sign Deron Payne and then you obviously have to make financial decisions elsewhere, or do you trade Deron Payne and roll the dice with Fedarian Mathis, who's coming off of a meniscus tear, and couple him with John Ridgway? Which, oh, by the way, Ken, so many guys didn't play in that last game of the year against Dallas.
Right.
That did you realize that Ridgway tore his pec muscle in that game?
No, I didn't. I don't.
I
I
didn't.
don't.
I
I
didn't know
don't
that
recall.
either. I was doing some research for this podcast and realized that he's on IR because he tore his pec muscle. And let me tell you, pec muscle for a defensive tackle.
Yeah.
And first of all, he's got to come back and recover from that and rehab
Right.
from that. And then that's a man. But yeah, he tore his pec muscle. But nonetheless, do you roll with Fedarian Matches and John Ridgway to trying to replace the production uh, of a traded Deron Payne, knowing that you do have a decision with Sweat, Cam Curl, and Chase Young here in the next year or two?
Right. Uh, Get out. I don't want to. Well, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I mean, the thing with Ridgway and Mathis is, uh, they're both young. Not that Payne is old, but we just got Mathis in the second round this past year. Everything that we had heard through training camp is he was having a really good camp. He was going to be in the regular in the rotation, and then we picked up Ridgway from the Cowboys practice squad and pulled him in, not expecting him to be the player that he is, but he came in and started body slamming people and and playing tough in his role. And to your point, next year Ridgway is set to make a whopping $870,000, not even $1 million. So I'm not saying that Payne isn't better. You're not going to get an argument from me on that. But is he 18, $19 million better than Ridgway and Mathis? When again together, I need to go look and see what Mathis is making, but together they're probably in the $7 to $8 million. Probably not even that. I'll just say $7 million combined. And then you've got that extra $20 million to go spend somewhere else. Offensive line, offensive line, offensive line.
Yep.
So it's going to be a tough decision. I think they want Payne back. If they could make it work, they would. But when they sit down and truly look at it and evaluate where they want to be, not just this year, but 2 years, 3 years, 4 years from now, I don't think Payne is going to be back.
And then here's the thing too, right? The situation with Ron and the ownership plays a role, because if Ron has any inkling, which I believe he will, then Ron's not planning for the future. Ron is planning for next year. Next year means you resign Deron Payne or you franchise Deron Payne, right? That's different. You franchise.
Yeah. Right,
If
right.
if Ron knows that, hey, I'm going to be here over the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, he may make a different decision. Meaning he and the GMs. But if those guys know, man, we're in a win now situation, and we know we're going to be judged with new ownership, then it could alter their decision, which means we're win now, and win now means you roll the dice and you pay or you franchise Deron Payne, even if that pisses him off, because we know we need to get the production out of him one more year.
Yeah.
And I, again, don't know the situation entirely, with us being on the outside, but you can't tell me it doesn't play a role, man.
Well,
Had a lot to do with
yeah.
the whole Dwayne Haskins thing with Jay Gruden.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Well, I don't disagree, but I think if I'm playing doing the win now situation, I think I can win now faster with Mathis and Ridgway and beefing up the offensive line. If I go and spend that $20 million on an offensive line, I can get 2 or 3, at least 2 solid guys in that offensive line and give Sam Howell a better chance of winning. If I'm dropping all my money on Payne, that leaves me with today's numbers, and I know there's other players that they can cut and move and things like that and renegotiate contracts, but that leaves you $12 million to fill a lot of holes. And some of those holes we can kind of continue to talk about. But I don't think anybody would hesitate saying we need at least two minimum, if not three, different offensive linemen starting next year. Um,
Well,
and you might get there's probably somebody screaming at this moment going three, how about five, maybe six,
well, of the five guys that was on the offensive line, to me, the only guys that are worthy to return would be Charles Leno and Sam Cosmi. Right? They're solid players. I mean, could you upgrade from those two? You could, but if I'm going to bring back any guys from the offensive line, it's going to be your second round pick Sam Cosmi,
right.
and it's going to be Charles Leno, right? Your free agent that you brought in 2 years ago, and you gave a contract extension to. Um, you know, Charles wasn't bad. I mean, again, we talked about it on many podcasts before. Is that his play? It made us not questioning the need, having lost Trent Williams. He's not Trent Williams. We all know that, but it wasn't like the quarterbacks were just getting blown up. So Charles was fine as a left tackle, and so all the rest of those guys, let me see, Norwell, Schweitzer, Turner, Lucas, Martin, Larson, Roulier. Listen, man, all those guys, they're either injured or just haven't lived up to it. And it's
Well,
time for
yeah,
them to go.
yeah, and that's what I was going to say is some of those guys definitely didn't play well, and some of those guys can't stay healthy.
Can't stay healthy.
And as soon as you're not healthy, that means now we're playing with second round or
Backups.
your second backup, third backup, fourth backup, and we all know that each time you do that, the talent level drops,
Absolutely.
a notch or three.
And,
Um,
and, and listen, the guys I just named, Norwell, not interested. Schweitzer, old. Turner, old. Cornelius Lucas, we're not sure what we're going to get from him.
right,
Wes Martin, injured. Lawson, injured. Roulier, injured. Then that leaves Chris Paul, the rookie from last year. I think it was a seventh round pick. And then Sadiq Charles. Sadiq Charles has been on the team what seems like 3-4 years, but the guy never seems to take the next step.
right,
But he was supposed to have been a stud coming out of LSU.
right,
But we need to see it, Sadiq. We need to see it. And Chris Paul came in to play a little bit. He seemed to be okay, but again, he's a rookie. And Cornelius Lucas played. He played when Sam Cosmi got hurt. Played on the right tackle. He was serviceable, but again, they're going to have to do some major upgrades on the offensive line because here's the thing, Ken. If they don't upgrade that offensive line, it doesn't matter the quarterback. It doesn't matter the offensive coordinator, right?
right.
And to me, the upgrade of the offensive line is the number one thing that needs to be addressed for me, for this team to have any success next year. Because it starts for me in the offensive line. It's not going to matter the OC. It's not going to matter the quarterback. It's not going to matter the running game. Nothing is going to matter unless they improve and get that offensive line back to, at a minimum, what it was 2 years ago.
Well, I don't necessarily disagree. I think there's, to me, it's a kind of a three-headed monster. It is offensive line, offensive coordinator, and the quarterback. We know right now, anticipate right now that two of the three will be changed from this past season. Right, as of right now, it's Sam Howell and whatever offensive coordinator is to be named. I do anticipate that they're going to make some moves on, like I said, at least two or three of the offensive line positions. And so from that perspective, things could work out. I think our offensive line can be better. We'll wait to see and evaluate. Uh, we'll see. A young Sam Howell. He's given the opportunity. So, hey, I'm wishing this kid nothing but the best. Get your little relaxation time right now, but get ready to grind. Get ready to connect your self uh, any way possible with your phone, with your text, with your video conferencing, in person, face to face with his offensive coordinator, and learn what he's trying to do, understand what he's trying to do, and be ready to be an NFL quarterback. I would love for Sam Howell to be our, fill in the blank, Purdy or Tom Brady. I mean, even uh, Knucklehead from the Cowboys.
Dak.
Tony Romo was undrafted, right?
Yeah.
I would love to get somebody in, get somebody in the 5th round that turns out to be our quarterback for the next 5, 7, 12 years.
Yeah. Russell
We've all
Wilson.
been thinking
Russell
that.
Wilson comes to mind for me.
Okay, he was
C-
4th round, third,
Third
fourth
round.
round, third
Third
round. Yeah,
round. Short stature quarterback, came in as a third round pick and ends up taking the job, right? I would love for Sam Howell to have been touted as a first round talent. Next year he falls to the 5th round, sits down a year in Washington, essentially what he did, except for the one game, gets an opportunity, man, and then all of a sudden be our Russell Wilson, right?
yeah, yeah.
And
Well, he
and Dak, to
basically,
your point, and Dak was a 4th round pick.
yeah.
So
I mean, Sam Howell basically had a red shirt year,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
He sat behind not one but two quarterbacks, had a chance to learn, grind on what the NFL, what it takes to be successful in the NFL, um,
One thing,
and yeah,
no, one thing I want to acknowledge too, man, is although we had a lot of uh, back and forth in our at the quarterback position, for all reports that we've heard, the quarterback room really meshed and gelled together.
right,
Like there wasn't like Taylor Heineke was there to support Carson Wentz, and when Carson went, was benched, he supported Taylor Heineke, and uh, Sam Howell got to see that.
right,
Right? Supposedly it was Taylor Heineke who, when Ron wanted to go back for Taylor at the last game, he said, no, the kids put in all the work. He deserves a shot. Now, whether that was a business move because he didn't want to get hurt going into as a free agent, or he really truly wanted Sam to get an opportunity. But the reports are that all the players wanted Sam to get an opportunity because he had worked his butt off throughout the season.
right.
And to me, that shows a lot of unity and camaraderie in the room that Sam got to see that. And it wasn't like the quarterback wasn't trying to help him, right? It wasn't the what do you call it? When Roethlisberger in Pittsburgh toward the end and they drafted
Oh,
God,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
drawing
you kind of you start having animosity and
yeah, Mason Rudolph out of Oklahoma State, or
right,
when Aaron Rodgers and they drafted Jordan Love, right? The
right,
quarterbacks, these guys did,
or Favre and
and
Rogers.
Rodgers, right?
Yeah,
These guys in Washington all still remain friends, and they helped Sam out as best they could. Sam got to be able to sit back and listen and watch. So that although he didn't play, it seemed to have helped his development, even though he was sitting down, and in most game days he was even inactive.
yeah,
Uh,
and
so
then
so 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 I want to commend those guys for that, because I think that truly helped Sam in his preparation, not only for that game against Dallas, but for his career going forward.
right, and I think, to your point, just to piggyback on that for a brief second, is, for all the criticism that we gave Washington this year, uh, that kind of character seems to be throughout the
The
locker
team.
room.
Yes, I would agree.
And so again, we criticize Ron, and Ron definitely has some uh some, I'm not gonna say issues, but points or things that he could definitely be better on. But keeping a team together, character building, talking the talk, walking the walk, that carries over to these players. I do have to give him credit for that. And even if Ron is gone, next year, I think, the character that he's built on these players moving forward, if they stay in Washington, will definitely carry on, and hopefully, the issues that we had 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 12 years ago. I don't want to jinx ourselves here, but we haven't seen it very much in the last under Ron's regime.
I agree.
We've seen it in the back office, right? We've seen all the mess ups that Jason Wright and Snyder and others have made, but um, from a team camaraderie and not repeatedly doing stupid stuff that hurts you off the field from a player perspective. We haven't seen that. So, I like the character of our guys. We need our play on the field to match the character, and we'll have we'll be maybe we'll be playing this time next year.
Yeah, yeah, I think we have a strong locker room, man, with the leadership and the captains that we have. I think that was, long are the Josh Normans and gone are the DJ Swearing to the guys that was kind of about themselves.
Right,
Guys like Terry, John Allen, Tressway, you can tell that we have a strong locker room.
right.
And that's kind of the thing that Ron always talks about. And he's talked about it before, is that the locker room kind of policing itself a little bit. And I think we have that in Washington. And it was evident by when I think we all saw as fans when the team made the announcement of the guys making a Pro Bowl. I mean, these guys were genuinely happy for their teammates making the Pro Bowl.
Yes, yes.
So to that point, man, I think that was a huge plus in the QB room for Sam Howell's development, and I think that can't go unnoticed and unstated here. And I think it's going to set the foundation for him and his career going forward, whether it's in Washington or anywhere else.
Right, right. Um, we talked about the ownership, the coaching, some player decisions that they have coming up. We're going to be in the middle of the draft, uh, middle of the first round or middle of each round at number 16. Um,
Barring the trade.
Correct, barring trade. And so, and we'll talk about the draft as we get closer. We'll talk about the free agency as we get closer to the first day of free agency here in the next month and a half. But it just off the top of your head, we already covered obviously quarterback and offensive line. If there was a couple other positions that you think that we need to address, what do you, off the top of your head, do you have two or three positions that you think that we should look to improve in free agency and the draft combined?
Outside of the quarterback and offensive line,
Correct.
um,
uh,
I'll
is it
say
easy
this.
for me to give you mine?
No, I'll say this because
And
your question kind of pigeonholed me there a little bit. So to answer your question, the position that needs to be addressed through free agency and the draft needs to be the linebacker position. I think we're good on the safeties. I think between Cam Curl, if they bring back Bobby McCain, you got Derek Forrest, and you got Percy Butler. I think the youth there is good. It's the
I would agree.
linebacker. Cole
Okay.
Holcomb is a free agent. Do you bring him back? I don't know. We need another level jump from Jamin Davis, right? He went from year one and year two. We see the production there. But I was listening to something the other day, and the question is, we're still questioning where do we put the guy? Because keep in
Right.
mind, year one, he played on the outside. Cole was the middle linebacker. When Cole gets hurt, they move Jamin inside to the middle linebacker. He wore the green dot, so he was calling the defense. But they're asking now, so do you leave him in the middle or do you put him back on the outside? Like this is year three, and we're still questioning whether or not Jamie should be a strong or weak side linebacker versus our middle linebacker. Because remember, year one, they made him a middle linebacker, and he didn't
Right.
play well. So the question is, do you leave him as a middle and go sign some other guys, or do you move him outside and go sign your pure middle linebacker? But either way, they need to upgrade because Khalid Hudson played well in the last game of the season, but is he the next guy? I don't know. David Mayo and John Bostic, you got to cut bait on those guys, man.
Yeah.
So the depth at the linebacker position is still not there. We still don't have that key stud guy. So to answer your question about the draft and free agency, it's got to be linebacker. But where I also think that we need to get the production outside linebacker is the tight end. I don't know that you
Are
draft a
you are you
guy.
re- are you reading my notes here? Are you reading my notes, Reggie? Go ahead. Keep going.
Hey man, it's just call me Reggie Damas, man. I tell you. So again, I don't know that you draft a guy. There's certainly not a lot of studs tight ends in the free agency, but in the preseason and in training camp, all we heard was about even Doc Walker talking about, man, I take all 4 or 5 of these guys, right? You got Amani Rogers, you got Cole Turner, you got Logan Thomas, and you got John Bates, right? And supposedly between the 4 of them, man, we could run 2 tight end sets. We got no production out of the tight end spot.
Well, you run
So
2 tight end sets if you're running, right? From a blocking perspective, these guys are good, but they didn't from what we saw last year, they
this past
didn't
season,
hurt they yeah, this past season, they didn't hurt defenses. Logan Thomas came back and it was like, what happened to Logan Thomas? The year before he was a weapon, and we didn't have our linebackers were not weapons this past season.
tight ends, you
Um,
mean?
what I say?
Linebacker.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Our linebackers weren't weapons either, but yeah, our tight ends were not weapons this year. And we thought, the year or two before, Logan Thomas was a stud out there. He wasn't the tier one tight ends when you start mentioning the 2 or 3 tight ends in the NFL, but he was that next tier. And he had the injury, and I don't know if it was injury related or the play calling or just his play, but it was a big drop off at linebacker. I said it again, the big drop off at tight end again this year. And so
Yeah,
I would definitely, Knucklehead Ken GM would definitely be looking at least evaluating why our tight end production was dropped off so much this past year.
yeah. Logan Thomas went from having 70 something catches the season before to I think he had less than 40 catches this season. So there's a huge drop off. But again, I don't know if that was just too many balls to go around. But I'm not saying again that they need to draft or even free agency. It's just that we need to get some production.
Right.
Because again, John Bates should have been improved. Amani Rogers, I know is a project, but he's supposed to be a good pass catching tight end. Cole Turner, we heard all the good things about him in training camp, and then the season comes, nothing. And then of course we have the regression, what appears to be the regression of Logan Thomas. But we got to get some production there. But in terms of linebacker, man, you got to go free agency in the draft. We got to get something else out of the linebacker position to go, because it looks like the safety position is good. The defensive line, I think, is solid. I guess you could probably improve a little bit on the corners. Get a little bit more depth there. But I think I would put linebacker and tight end in front of or higher on the list than I would the corner. And
Yeah.
that's not to mean you neglect the corner spot. That's not what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah, I would have the cornerback sitting there also and I would look for the cornerback more so through the draft of getting some young cornerback
Agreed.
in there.
Agreed.
But whether it's through free agency or undrafted signing, is we've got to do better and more consistency at kicker. We're not spending the first, second, third round on a kicker, but Joey Sly,
Oh,
we need to do better.
you
We need
moving
to
on from Sly?
we need to do better than the inconsistent Joey Sly missing.
What?
How many extra points did he miss this past
I
year?
don't know, but you sound like you're ready to move on from old Joey Sly, man.
I am bringing in 2 or 3 people to compete with him. It won't be just one person. I don't think Ron brought in a single person this past year. Literally, I don't think he brought in a single person to compete with Joey Sly. I bring in at least minimum 2, if not 3 people into training camp. And there's a lot of hungry young college kickers coming out that would love to be invited to
Wow.
Washington.
Okay, man.
Because
Joey,
for one, they're going to stand a chance, right? There's some kickers out there that that, hey, I'm going out there, but I'm not going to beat that guy. He's already got a lock in there. I'm just a foot.
well, man,
But
Joey beat
there's some people
Philly.
there's some people looking. There's a lot of people that get one game here or there, but I need more consistency from my kicker.
Man, Joey helped you beat Philly, and you ready to move on from him, huh? All right, all right.
Thank you very much, Joey. We'll give you a souvenir mug on the way out. It'd be a Washington State Commanders mug
Oh man. God, okay.
for those that remember that.
All right, man. All right. I'm not mad at bringing in some competition for Joey Slot, man. He he looked a little shaky down the stretch there for us, and was missing some kicks that early in the season was gimmicks, and with a guy who was supposed to have a strong leg, and because Joey looks like a bodybuilder. Um,
Yeah.
but the way he was supposed to be that guy, man, with the strong leg and a little bit better accuracy than what he's shown down the stretch.
So yeah,
So
hey, if he can, if they bring in 2 or 3 guys that give him a run for the money, and he steps up his game and he can produce, I'm all for it. But I need you to be better. Yeah, that was it was a
I feel you.
definitely some one of the areas that we struggled last year. What was
Yeah.
it? Consistency of kicker. So anyway, that was kind of one that
Okay.
is out there as well.
All right,
Uh,
Joey, do better. You got to do better,
yeah,
Joey. Ken's ready to move on from you.
no,
Make
I'm
make
ready to
him
bring in competition. I didn't say
make
cutting.
him change his
I didn't say
mind.
cutting. Yeah,
Make him
maybe
change
change
his
my
mind,
mind.
Joey.
Absolutely, absolutely. But that's kind of what what I had to talk about today. This is kind of like version 1.0 of looking into the 2023 season. Um, and yeah, there's one more game in the NFL,
That's
right?
right.
That's in, like I said, about 10 days. So that means, in 11 days is the beginning of the 2023 season. And, I guess technically for Washington, as soon as you lose that last game, we start the season. We start the 2023 season
Oh yeah.
earlier than
We've been in
Philly.
the off season.
Yeah, yeah.
We've been in the
But
off season.
but NFL wide,
Yeah.
it starts the day after the Super Bowl. So
Officially. So
officially. But that's all I got. You got anything else for the folks there, Reg?
no, man, that's all I got as well. And it's just one of those things, man. We will continue to give our feedback on this as things change, as things evolve. Once we hire an official offensive coordinator, and then we'll get into some free agency talk, and then of course the draft talk. And so as some of these things happen, it will obviously change some of our needs. So we'll be back. We're not going nowhere. So stay tuned. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. And until next time, y'all, peace out.
Peace out, knuckleheads. Follow us. Make a TikTok about us. Hit us up on Twitter. Whatever you got to do. Later, knuckleheads.